Picture this. A woman. Sitting alone at the edge of a dying fire. In her arms, a newborn. The baby is healthy. The baby is hers. Around her, the rest of the tribe is asleep. They are somewhere in prehistoric Africa. Somewhere around 50,000 years ago. She has not slept in 2 days. Not because of the baby. Because of what she knows is coming. The tribe has been moving for 3 weeks. The last good food source dried up. 2 children in the group are already sick. The oldest hunter broke his leg 4 days ago. And can no longer run, and she is sitting there, holding her newborn, doing a calculation in her head. A calculation that would make most of us sick. Just to think about. But she is not a monster. She is a mother. And she is doing the only math that the ancient world gave her. Stay with me. Because this story is not what you think it is. And by the end of it, I promise, you will understand something about human nature that most people spend their entire lives never confronting. Okay. So to understand any of this, you have to understand one thing first. The ancient world had no safety net. None. Zero. No hospitals. No food banks. No backup plan. No government. No neighbor who could help. Just the tribe. And whatever the land gave you. And here is the part that people forget. When they study ancient humans from a comfortable chair in a modern house. A hunter-gatherer tribe was not just a group of people who liked each other. It was a survival machine. Every single person in that group had to carry their own weight. Or the whole machine broke down. Researchers who have studied the Jikung San people of southern Africa, one of the oldest continuous cultures on Earth, found something striking. When resources became critically short, the tribe had to make impossible choices. Not cruel choices. Survival choices. And the hardest of those choices involved the youngest members. Because here is the brutal math of the ancient world. An infant cannot walk. An infant cannot hunt. An infant cannot carry supplies. An infant consumes resources without yet being able to contribute. And if the tribe was already struggling to keep its existing members alive, a new baby could tip the balance the wrong way. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, I could never. And honestly, you are probably right. Because you live in a world where that choice has never actually been put in front of you. But the ancient world put it in front of parents constantly. And we know this not because of stories. We know this because of bones. Archaeologists have spent decades excavating prehistoric sites around the world. And the findings are consistent. Almost uncomfortably consistent. At Roman-era sites in Britain, researchers found something that stopped them cold. At a single villa in Hambledon, England, excavated way back in 1921, they found 97 infant burials. 97. In one location. When modern researchers re-examined the site and published their findings in the Journal of Archaeological Science, they concluded that the age distribution of those infant deaths was not consistent with natural causes. It was consistent with something intentional. But Britain is just one data point. Because the same pattern shows up at Caveman in Thailand, at Lipinski Vir in Serbia, at prehistoric sites across Germany, across Africa, across the Americas. Anthropologist Layla Williamson, after studying the available evidence, concluded something that makes people deeply uncomfortable. Infanticide has been practiced by nearly all known human civilizations. Nearly all of them. And here is the number that genuinely stopped me when I first read it. Researchers estimate that historically, as many as 10 to 15% of all newborns worldwide did not survive past the first days or weeks of life, due to decisions made by the people who brought them into the world. Let that sit for a second. Okay. So why? Because this is the part where it stops being a dark history fact and starts being a window into something much deeper. Something about how the human mind processes impossible situations. Researchers who study prehistoric hunter-gatherer societies have identified several categories of circumstances that drove these decisions. The first was resource scarcity. Simple and brutal. When a tribe was moving constantly and food was critically low, the survival of the existing group had to take priority. The Ache people of Paraguay, studied extensively by researchers Kim Hill and Ana Magdalena Hurtado, showed that infanticide rates rose sharply in periods of food scarcity and dropped significantly when resources were stable. The second was the carrying problem. And this one is fascinating. A nomadic tribe could not stop moving. Stopping meant death. Predators. Starvation. Rival groups. They had to keep moving. And a mother could typically only carry one child at a time, while also carrying supplies and keeping up with the group. If she already had a child who was not yet old enough to walk, and she gave birth to another, she had a physical impossibility on her hands. The third reason was health assessment. This is the hardest one to talk about. But we have to talk about it. In a world with no medical care, a child born with a serious disability or severe illness was very unlikely to survive to adulthood regardless. And in some cases, the tribe made a decision in those first days. Not out of cruelty. Out of a cold assessment of probability. And the fourth reason, the one that genuinely disturbed me most, was timing, because researchers found something almost impossible to explain with modern psychology. The decision, when it happened, almost always happened within the first few days of birth. Before naming. Before the tribe formally welcomed the child. Before the emotional bond had fully formed. And anthropologists believe this was not an accident. They believe the ancient human brain had a built-in protective delay. A window of time before full attachment. A window that existed precisely because of how often these decisions had to be made. Think about that. The human brain may have evolved a protective buffer against its own grief. So let's go back. Back to that woman sitting at the edge of the dying fire, holding her newborn. She has been doing this calculation for 2 days. She knows the tribe cannot support another member right now. She already has a 2-year-old who still cannot walk fast enough to keep up on the long marches. She knows that winter is coming. She knows the hunter with the broken leg may not recover in time. She knows the 2 sick children are consuming more than their share. And she is sitting there, with this baby in her arms, trying to find a third option. Because I want to be very clear about something. Researchers who have studied these decisions in living hunter-gatherer communities have consistently noted that these were not easy choices. They were not made coldly. They were made in grief. Often over multiple days. Often with the entire tribe having input into the decision. The woman at the fire was not a villain in her story. She was a person facing a set of options that none of us will ever have to face. And that is the part of this that I think we never sit with long enough. We want ancient humans to be simpler than us. less feeling, less complicated. We want there to be a clean line between them and us. But there is not. There was never a clean line. Here is the thing that I keep coming back to. The practice we have been talking about stopped almost everywhere on Earth. It stopped not because humans became less desperate, not because the world became easier. It stopped because the conditions changed. When communities stopped moving constantly. When agriculture provided more stable food. When there were systems to care for the sick. The practice declined. Not because humans became more moral. Because humans finally had other options. And that distinction matters. It matters a lot. Because it means that the ancient humans, who made these impossible choices, were not fundamentally different from us. In their capacity for love. They were different in their options. Researchers from Frontiers in Psychology published a study examining the relationship between infanticide and what they call norm psychology. And what they found was striking. They found that the same communities that practiced infanticide under extreme conditions also showed strong norms of care and protection for children under normal conditions. The same people. The same love. Different circumstances. And I think that is the most uncomfortable and most important thing this history can teach us. That being a good person and making a terrible choice are not mutually exclusive. That the ancient world forced people into situations where every option was a form of loss. And the people in those situations were fully, completely, painfully human. Just like us. So here is where I land on this. We study ancient humans. And we look for the monsters. We look for the barbaric, the primitive, the cruel. Because if they are different from us, we are safe. We do not have to ask the harder question. The harder question is this. What decisions are we making right now, in our world, with our resources, that future humans will look back on? With the same horrified confusion? What choices are we normalizing today? That a person 50,000 years from now will study in a video just like this one, shaking their head, trying to understand how we could have done it. I am not going to answer that for you. That is not my job. My job was to tell you about a woman sitting at a dying fire 50,000 years ago, holding her baby, doing the hardest math a human being has ever had to do. And to ask you to try, just for a moment, to understand her. Not excuse her. Not condemn her. Just understand her. Because she is us. She has always been us. If this video made you feel something, that was the point. The past is not a museum. It is a mirror. Share this with one person who you think is ready to look into it. And if you want to keep exploring the parts of human history that nobody talks about at dinner, you know where to find us.